When the news of the Pope's death arrived, the world held its breath. An event that, like a lightning bolt out of a clear sky, shook not only the faithful but every corner of the earth. But behind this tragic event, there is something that goes beyond the simple death of a man. There is a larger story unfolding, a plot that seems to link the Pope's death to prophecies that speak of a final era. The death of this Pope could be the beginning of a catastrophic change that will not only shake the Church but the whole world. According to the prophecies of Saint Malachi, in fact, the papacy we are living through is the last before a period of darkness. The one who was supposed to be the last Pope, Petrus Romanus, would have been the leader of the Church during a time of global crisis. This prophecy, which has hung over us like the sword of Damocles for centuries, seems to find confirmation in the current situation. But the question that immediately arises is, why did the Pope die now? Is his death merely a sign of an inevitable fate, or is there something more, something that eludes us? And what if it's not just a coincidence? What if the death of this Pope is not just a sad farewell, but a sign that the end of the Church as we know it has come? We're not talking about a simple transition of power, but an epical transformation, a revelation that will shake the very foundations of faith. A change that the world refuses to see, but that the prophecies have been predicting for centuries. Medjugorje, another piece of the puzzle. Then there is Medjugorje. The apparitions of the Madonna at Medjugorje have always warned humanity about what lies ahead, and her words have never been more relevant than now. The Madonna spoke of secrets, tribulations, and of a Pope who would face immense challenges before the end. But she also spoke of a Pope who would see darkness fall upon Rome and the entire Church. The words of the Madonna at Medjugorje should not be taken lightly. There is a direct connection between the warnings she gave and the death of this Pope. His death marks the beginning of a new era, an era that could be characterized by chaos, confusion, and the path of purification that awaits us. The Madonna's vision has never been clearer. The Church will be tested as never before, and this will not be a trial we can face lightly. A Pope who, as beloved as he was, failed to protect the Church from what seems inevitable. Yet, the Madonna urges us not to lose hope. This is a trial, but also an opportunity for redemption. An opportunity for the Church to rise from its ashes, to reconnect with the deepest roots of its faith. The next Pope, the Messiah or the Antichrist. With the death of this Pope, the inevitable question arises: who will take his place? Will the Church be able to choose a leader who faces with courage the dark times ahead? Or will the next Pope be a man who will help cast the Church into oblivion, fostering confusion and opening the door to external influences? There are theories that suggest the arrival of the next Pope will not be random, but the fulfillment of a greater prophecy. Many speak of a Pope who will be a unique figure, one who will embody characteristics never seen before, but at the same time represent the beginning of the end. Some even fear that the next Pope could be the Antichrist himself, as foretold by the Scriptures. What will happen when the next Pope is chosen? Will he be able to lead the Church through the chaos? Or will he be the catalyst for an even greater crisis, leading the Church towards an uncertain future? Perhaps this is exactly what the prophecies are trying to tell us. The next Pope could be the last before judgment comes, as the Madonna said at Medjugorje. He could be the one who faces the final tribulation, the one that leads to the return of Christ. Or conversely, he could be the sign of the beginning of the end. The death of this Pope marks not only an end but also the beginning of a path that will lead us to a final revelation. Are we truly ready to face what lies ahead? Or are we destined to succumb, as the prophecies warn us, to the great tribulation that will mark the end of the world as we know it? The Pope's death is just the beginning. The real question is, what else will happen? And how will the Church and we face what is to come? The Pope's death, which has marked an era in the Church, may not only be a tragic event but a sign that we are approaching the end of an age. The question many are now asking is, will the next Pope really be the last one? Some believe that the prophecy of Saint Malachi, which spoke of the Petrus Romanus, the Pope who will lead the Church during the time of the final tribulation, could finally be realized. The conclusion of a cycle that, according to the Scriptures and visions, takes us straight to the climax of spiritual purification. The words of Our Lady of Medjugorje seem to confirm this perspective. For years, the Virgin has warned about the need to prepare for a period of suffering and confusion within the Church. Many interpret these prophecies as signs that the Pope who follows will not only have to face extraordinary difficulties, but could also be the last Pope to lead the Church as we know it. Why might this Pope be the last? There are several factors that can support this theory. First, the beginning of the tribulation. According to many prophecies, including those of Medjugorje, we are on the verge of a great tribulation that will strike not only the church but the entire world. The church, as we know it, must be purified, and this will involve the collapse of many of its structures. This does not only mean a crisis of faith within, but also a profound crisis of leadership. In this scenario, the Pope who comes will not have a role of simple spiritual guidance but will be the last point of reference before the Church undergoes a radical transformation or a departure from its traditional form. Then, the prophecy of Saint Malachi. The Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman, the last pope on the list, who would be the pope to see the Church through the last tribulation, is not just a historical prediction. Some believe that this pope could indeed be the last. With the death of Pope Benedict XVI and the conclusion of Pope Francis's pontificate, many wonder if the next pope could truly be the last. He may be chosen not only for his spiritual preparation but also for his ability to manage a church going through one of the most turbulent periods in its history. Another element that suggests this pope might be the last is the growing division within the church itself. The struggle between different visions of Christianity and the corruption that seems to afflict some of its institutions could lead to a definitive fracture. Medjugorje and other prophecies suggest that the final great division will occur precisely in the last days of the papacy, with the Pope possibly being a witness to an implosion that he cannot prevent. Marian apparitions, especially those linked to Medjugorje, have been clear in predicting apocalyptic, purifying events. If we consider the death of the Pope as one of the signs, then the papal succession could be the final phase before the Church undergoes a radical restructuring, perhaps eliminating the papal figure entirely. In summary, we are facing a complex historical situation, where the end of the papal figure as we know it could not only be a possibility but actually a divine goal already established. The papal succession has never been so uncertain, and the death of a pope who represents a turning point seems to be the key to understanding the beginning of a new phase, one that the prophecies have been announcing for centuries. The next pope, who could be the last, will not merely have the task of continuing the church but of leading the faith through its greatest trial, preparing the church for the final moment of its history. The importance of these reflections is that, as the church approaches the culmination of this transition, we are all invited to reflect on our role in this great change and to prepare spiritually, because the purification that awaits us could be more radical than we think. In conclusion, the perspective that the next pope could be the last is not just a conjecture, but a weave of prophetic signs, observations of internal difficulties within the church, and historical changes that seem to be the prelude to a radical transformation. The prophecies of Saint Malachi, the Marian visions of Medjugorje, and the current situation of the church offer a picture that cannot be ignored. As the world prepares to face increasingly complex challenges, the figure of the Pope could be destined to evolve, or even vanish, making way for a new vision of spirituality and faith. What is certain is that we are living in a period of great uncertainty, and the figure of the Pope seems to be at the center of a change that could mark the end of an era. In these turbulent times, it is essential to remain vigilant, ready to face the future with faith and hope, as we continue to seek the truth amid the gathering clouds. I conclude with an invitation to deep reflection. Are we truly ready for what may come? The Church, the world, and our faith may be on the brink of a change that no one could have foreseen.